Most households are sitting 3 days away from a serious food problem. Not a week, not a month, 3 days. That's the average amount of food in a typical home at any given moment, and most people have no idea. But here's what almost nobody talks about. There are foods sitting on shelves right now that don't last 3 days. They last 3 decades. Some of them last longer than most countries have existed, and a few of them you already own. This isn't a list of exotic survival gear or overpriced bunker supplies. This is about 18 completely real foods, ranked from useful to genuinely legendary. And by the time we hit number 1, you're gonna wonder why this information isn't taught in school. Let's start with the foundation. The quiet legends: rice, oats, wheat berries.
White rice opens the list, and there's a reason every serious preparedness conversation starts here. When rice is milled, the natural oils inside the grain are stripped away. Those oils are what cause food to go rancid. Remove them, seal the rice in airtight Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, and you've essentially put it in suspended animation. No oxygen, no bacteria, no deterioration. Archaeologists have pulled rice from ancient sites and confirmed it was still safe. The shelf life? 30 years. Not a typo. Oats sit right alongside it. Sealed in airtight containers, they hit that same 30-year mark. Fiber-rich, iron-dense, calorie-steady, and versatile enough to go from morning porridge to soup thickener to no-cook energy bars. They're affordable in bulk, they're genuinely good to eat, and they'll still be waiting for you 3 decades from now. And then there's the one most people have never even heard of: wheat berries. Whole, unprocessed wheat kernels. Here's the thing about flour. When wheat gets milled, the inner oils get exposed to oxygen and start oxidizing almost immediately. Most flour goes bad within months. Wheat berries don't have that problem. The intact outer shell protects everything inside. Stored correctly, they last 30 years or longer. And then you grind them into fresh flour. 30 years on a shelf, and they still produce better flour than anything you buy at a store. That's not marketing language. That's just how the grain behaves. But longevity without flavor gets old fast, and that's where the next group comes in.
The flavor savers: honey, salt, sugar, vinegar. Honey is the most extraordinary item on this entire list, and it's not particularly close. There's a jar in the Cairo Museum. It's 3,000 years old. The honey inside is still safe to eat. What makes that possible? Honey contains almost no free moisture, and its natural acidity, primarily from gluconic acid, creates an environment where bacteria simply cannot survive. No bacteria means no decomposition. No decomposition means no expiration. A sealed jar of pure honey has no biological pathway for going bad. It just doesn't. Salt works on a similar principle. Pure salt has no mechanism for spoilage. Kept dry, it remains exactly as it is indefinitely. But its real value goes far beyond seasoning. Salt is what allows you to preserve everything else. Curing meat, brining fish, fermenting vegetables, all of it runs on salt. Without it, the rest of your supply becomes significantly more vulnerable. Physiologically, it's also non-negotiable. Your body requires sodium for fluid balance, muscle function, and nerve transmission. That's not a preference, that's biology. Sugar gets dismissed as a comfort item, but that framing misses what it actually does in a crisis. Pure white sugar, kept dry, lasts indefinitely. And, more importantly, it's a food preservative. The principle behind jams, syrups, and fruit preserves that survive without refrigeration is osmotic pressure. Sugar pulls moisture away from bacteria and shuts down their growth. When your fridge is unreliable, sugar becomes a tool before it becomes a sweetener. White vinegar completes the group and is probably the most underestimated item on the entire list. Its chemical structure, built around acetic acid, makes it inherently self-preserving. Bacteria can't survive in it, mold can't develop, it doesn't expire, and it covers more functions per square inch of shelf space than almost anything else. Food preservation through pickling, antimicrobial surface cleaning, meat tenderizing, and more. One item, 5 categories of use. A few large jugs, and you've covered years.
But all of that still leaves a critical gap: protein.
The protein vault? Lentils, peanut butter, canned meats? When fresh meat disappears, and in serious supply disruptions, it's always one of the first things to go. You need a plan. Lentils are part of that plan. Small, plain, completely underestimated, and loaded with plant-based protein, complex carbohydrates, dietary fiber, and iron. Sealed in airtight containers, they remain viable for 30 years. They cook faster than almost any other dried legume, which matters when fuel is limited. And they absorb surrounding flavors so completely that they'll taste like whatever you're cooking them with. Spices, bouillon, canned tomato, which makes them one of the most adaptable staples on this list. Canned meats fill a different part of the gap. Tuna, chicken, sardines, salmon, fully cooked, vacuum-sealed, nutritionally dense, ready to eat the moment you open them. High in protein, rich in omega-3s, shelf-stable for 5 to 10 years and often beyond. When your body is under sustained physical or mental stress and your options have narrowed, that nutrition density isn't a bonus, it's critical. And then there's peanut butter. If you are expecting the #1 spot to go to something ancient, exotic, or highly engineered, this one's going to catch you off guard. 2 tablespoons, 190 calories, 8 grams of protein, loaded with healthy unsaturated fats, meaningful amounts of magnesium, vitamin E, and potassium. Shelf-stable in its original container, no Mylar bags required, no oxygen absorbers, no refrigeration. Open the jar, eat. That's it. In a real emergency, when your mental bandwidth is already maxed out, food that asks nothing of you in return is worth more than it sounds. And 2 weeks into a crisis, when everything has started tasting like survival rations, a spoonful of peanut butter tastes like a Tuesday afternoon, like something you'd choose. That psychological shift is a functional asset, not a soft one. It directly affects judgment, resilience, and the ability to keep structure when things are deteriorating. Peanut butter covers everything at once. That's why it's #1, and it isn't particularly close. The comfort tier. Ramen, instant coffee, bouillon cubes. Now here's the tier most people skip entirely when building a long-term supply, the ones that keep the whole system together. Ramen gets dismissed because of its reputation, but stored in flat, brick-style packets and transferred into airtight containers, it holds for up to 10 years. Fast carbohydrate energy, minimal prep, nothing but hot water. Not a health food, but in a situation where your priority is calories fast, it delivers without complication. Skip the foam cups, though. The material degrades and takes the contents with it. Bouillon cubes deserve more respect than they get. Picture day 4 of eating the same plain bowl of rice and lentils. You're nourished, but something inside you is quietly wearing down in a way that has nothing to do with hunger. Palatability fatigue is one of the most underestimated pressures in extended emergencies. Drop 1 bouillon cube into hot water, stir it through that same bowl, and the meal changes entirely. Not the calories, not the macros, the experience of it. Bouillon cubes weigh almost nothing, last 5 to 10 years, and transform the entire eating experience of every grain and legume in your supply. Enormous return for essentially zero cost. Instant coffee sounds frivolous. It isn't. Freeze-dried and vacuum-sealed, it stays potent for 20 years or more, requires nothing but hot water, and in a period when daily routines have disappeared and everything familiar has become uncertain, a warm cup of coffee is an anchor. The caffeine supports alertness and focus under stress, but the ritual, the 2 minutes of normalcy, matters just as much. Don't leave it out. Powdered milk is another one that's consistently underestimated. Non-fat dry milk stored correctly lasts 20 years. That's 2 decades of calcium, protein, B12, and vitamin D. Add water and it functions in coffee, cereal, baking, soups, and sauces. The flavor gap compared to fresh milk is real. But in an emergency, flavor stops being the relevant metric. Canned vegetables provide fiber, antioxidants, iron, and key vitamins, and the liquid inside the can doubles as hydration when clean water becomes limited. That detail gets overlooked constantly, and it shouldn't. Canned fruits add something harder to quantify, but just as important: variety. After weeks of the same savory staples, a can of peaches doesn't just provide vitamin C and natural sugar, it provides a completely different flavor experience. Different in an extended emergency is a morale factor that directly affects how sustainable a situation feels.
The support system: powdered milk, cooking fats, canned vegetables and fruits.
Cooking fats, oils, ghee, are the category most people skip entirely. And it's the most consequential gap in most pantries. Without fat, your body cannot absorb vitamins A, D, E, or K. All fat-soluble, all critical. Vegetable and olive oil last 2 to 3 years in a cool, dark environment. Ghee, clarified butter with milk solids removed, performs significantly better. Its low moisture content gives it longer stability without refrigeration, and it handles high cooking temperatures without breaking down. Fat delivers 9 calories per gram, compared to 4 for protein or carbohydrates. When calories are at a premium, that density is not a small detail. And finally, MREs. Designed to feed soldiers in active combat environments. No prep time, no equipment, no clean water, no margin for error. Each pouch contains a complete meal, condiments, snacks, sometimes a flameless ration heater that produces a hot meal from nothing but a chemical reaction inside the bag. Stored at moderate temperatures, they remain viable for 5 to 10 years. In cooler conditions, that window extends further. When convenience, portability, and complete nutrition all need to come from one item simultaneously, MREs deliver without asking anything in return. So here's what all 18 of these have in common. They weren't chosen because they're trending. They weren't put on this list because of marketing. They're here because they work. Because when circumstances narrow and options disappear, these are the foods that hold. Some of them outlasted empires. Honey that sat sealed in Egyptian tombs for 3,000 years. Salt that shaped the economies of entire civilizations. Others were engineered with precision. MREs built to exact military specifications. Freeze-dried fruits preserved through processes that didn't exist a century ago. And some of them are just quietly, stubbornly dependable. Rice that refuses to expire. Peanut butter that delivers everything you need and asks nothing back. The best time to build a resilient pantry is before you ever need one. The second best time is right now. Pick a few items from this list. Store what you'll actually eat. Rotate it. Because preparation isn't about expecting the worst. It's about making sure that when things get hard, you still have real options. And real options start with a shelf that's already ready.